Hi, Gary Stearman. Welcome to another Prophecy Watchers update. And with me today, Avi Lipkin. Avi, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Always great to be with you.
Avi is here for a specific reason. Both he and I wanted to talk about a group that's in the news occasionally, but only occasionally, and they're doing great harm. The group is called Boko Haram. And Avi, I'm going to turn it over to you, but after I say that I looked up the word Boko Haram, the term, and essentially in a rounded out way, it means a group which is opposed to the teaching of Western civilization, or a group which forbids the teaching of Western civilization. All that is condensed into those two words. And I thought, when I saw that, what a mouthful that is.
Yes, indeed. We see today Boko Haram originating in a country called Nigeria, but it is spread to over half a dozen countries surrounding Nigeria, all the way to Libya in the north, all the way to Morocco in the west. These Boko Haram terrorists wish to overthrow every country that they take and establish the caliphate. They are, in essence, ISIS. They are the extension of ISIS into North Africa. Nigeria has the most important economy of all the countries of Africa. Of course, Nigeria has oil. Nigeria is extremely wealthy. The south of Nigeria is Christian. The north of Nigeria is Muslim. But there are, of course, Christian groups in the north and Muslim groups in the south. The Christian groups in the north now are being massacred by Boko Haram. The idea is ethnic cleansing. The idea is to kill the black people who are Christians. And I'll say something really radical, that the Boko Haram are also killing Muslims who are friendly with Christians, Muslim imams and mosques that are trying to establish bridges of fraternal friendship with the Christians. These imams are being assassinated. The mosques are being burnt down and their followers are being killed. In other words, they're Muslims, but they're not radical enough. They're not Boko Haram enough. They have to be killed.
So what we have here is a war against Western civilization. Their name means forbidding the teachings of Western civilization, all condensed down into a couple of compact words. But in a larger sense, that's the war. That's the war that's being waged today. It's a war against Judeo-Christian Western civilization.
It also is extremely horrible, because what it does is it kidnaps primarily girls and women, turns them into slaves, chattel slaves.
Yes.
It seems like the Nigerian army, I won't say it's unable, but it's not easy for the Nigerian army to do its job and to locate these girls, bring them back to their families. And a lot of people just die there in captivity. Slavery has never been abolished in Africa. They never heard of Abraham Lincoln. And one of the things that drives me crazy is that here in America, you have people are totally disconnected from what Islam is doing to the black people in Africa. They don't care about the people in Africa.
Well, and it's not only the blacks, it's Islam in general in the Middle East that still practices enslavement routinely.
Right.
And whether it's enslaving people from the Philippine area, from Southeast Asia, they place these people in bondage, bring them to do their menial labor, et cetera, et cetera. It's still slavery.
I think another country that is really, really on the map of slavery is Mauritania. Mauritania is just south of Morocco. It's basically the same word, Mauritania. The word comes from the word Moors, the ones who conquered Spain and Portugal in 711 AD. Mauritania is a southern neighbor of Morocco. Slavery is just totally allowed in Mauritania. So if you look from Mauritania, which is on the Atlantic, reaching all the way to Libya, which is in the Mediterranean, neighboring with Egypt, it's a very horrible picture. It's a triangle of terror. So it would be Libya, Nigeria, and of course Mauritania. But they affect other countries like Mali. You have a civil war. It's in my first and third books. I talk about Africa very much in these two books, and do you remember the name Charles Taylor? He was the president of Liberia.
I do.
Okay, so there was a problem politically there. He had to flee. Where did he go? He went to Libya, to Muammar Gaddafi. And Muammar Gaddafi said that Africa would be the first continent to be totally brought under Islam. And so Charles Taylor himself wasn't a Muslim, but the Libyans trained an army for him, paid him tremendous amounts of money, and sent him back to Liberia to wage a civil war. So the northern Muslims, again, Liberia is Christian in the south, Muslim in the north, and these people come in with machetes, all kinds of weapons, and they chop the Christians to pieces. So, Gaddafi was behind the killing of I don't want to say hundreds of thousands, but tens of thousands of Liberians. You have it in Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire. You have other countries there where you have this perpetual fighting between the north, which is Muslim, and the Christians in the south. And they are working to destroy the Christian presence wherever they can.
Avi Lipkin is a Jew from Jerusalem. I'm a Christian from Oklahoma City. And the two of us together, can you say Judeo-Christian?
Judeo-Christian civilization for me is one, and I get into a lot of trouble both with the Jews and both with the Christians when I say that for me, Judeo-Christianity is one faith. The faith in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the faith in the Bible, and we all agree the Messiah is a Jew from Israel who speaks Hebrew.
And Western civilization
is based on that.
It's based on that whole idea.
Right.
And the reason I wanted to do this update today while Avi was here, and by the way, he's going to be traveling, so our ability to talk with him is going to be limited, but I'm really glad that he's here because I wanted to clarify the whole war against the Judeo-Christian foundation of Western civilization. That is huge. I think most people don't even have a consciousness of it.
I will say something which is extremely politically incorrect, and we spoke about this before. The United States always was a country that was isolationist because you had the Atlantic on one side, then later you had the Pacific on the other side as the American people reached the Pacific. And in the late 1700s, after America's independence, you had a very nice mercantile fleet of American ships. And they would just have this tendency to be taken captive by the Barbary pirates, and American sailors commanded a very high price on the slave market. And so from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, but this war wasn't only in 1803, it went on for about 10 years. After a final deal was drawn up that the North African Barbary pirates would not take American sailors captive anymore, but they still continued taking British sailors. So the British Navy came in 1817 and waged the war against them. And then finally, the British, the French, the Italians colonized North Africa because that was the only way to stop the terrorism. Now, I'm not saying we should colonize North Africa again, colonize the Muslim countries again. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying if we look back at history, we see that the only way to bring stability was to stop this piracy and this slave business. And so the Brits and the French and the Belgians in the Congo, the Italians in Libya, there was a reason that all these Italian powers said, these countries are right opposite us and we have a problem. Today, you have these quote unquote, refugee boats leaving Libya. And the moment they cross into international waters, the Italian Navy picks them up and gives them refuge. And so ISIS says, these Italians are stupid. We are sending 4,000 of our front guard terrorists into Italy. We're going to blow up the Vatican. We're going to kill the Pope. We're going to take over Italy. And, the Italians just look at this as a humanitarian gesture. But this is a strategic plan of ISIS and Boko Haram.
Boko Haram, you'll see it from time to time in a newspaper or magazine. You'll see little brief references to it on television. But you'll never see an exposition of what it is and what it's trying to do. And that's why I wanted Avi to talk with you today about this. It's very important to understand that the core of this whole operation is the eradication of the Judeo-Christian heritage.
Very correct. This is the clash of civilizations and the remaking of world order. And there is a gentleman, rest in peace, Professor Samuel Huntington. He was not known as a Christian, he was known as an academic, but he wrote a book called The Clash of Civilizations and the Remaking of World Order. And he talks precisely about the downfall of Western civilization. And Islam is one of the plans to destroy Western Christian civilization.
And that is serious. That should wake you up. That should make you think, what do I believe? What do my children believe? What do my relatives believe? Are we prepared to stand up for some sort of belief system? Are we going to spread that belief system in any way that we can? And you know, Avi, I think that's a big reason for why Prophecy Watchers is here. We talk about prophecy, and we believe these are the last days. And in the last days, there is going to be a battle, and everybody understands it. And we're seeing the leading edges of it right now.
If I have just a moment to say one last thing, there's a country in Africa, it's on the east coast of Africa, it's called Angola. Angola used to be a Portuguese Catholic colony. And at a certain time, they became communist, Marxist.
Yeah.
Cuba used to send troops into Angola to support the communist regime. It was not a good time. It was not an easy time. Today, Angola has banned Islam, period. No Islam allowed in Angola. I think that's a very remarkable, very positive step. You have another country called Central African Republic, where 60% of the population are Christians, 40% are Muslims. But the 40% Muslims started massacring the Christians. So the Christians woke up one day and said, you know what, we're not going to tolerate this. And they started attacking the mosques and attacking the Muslims. And a lot of these Muslims fled back to Chad and other countries where they came from into Central Africa. So I think what we're seeing now is a reaction to the aggression and imperialism of Boko Haram and these fanatic Islamic groups. And of course, Algeria, and I talked about it very much in my book 1 and book 3. I talk about Algeria. 200,000 Sunni Muslim Algerians have been slaughtered by each other, by Salafists. Salafists are another group similar to Boko Haram. Has nothing to do with Christians, has nothing to do with Jews. It is a war between brethren, between Algerian Sunni Muslims. And all these countries in Africa, if they don't get rid of Islam, they're just going to be destroyed from within. They're going to collapse.
It's happening now. And by the way, if you want to read Avi's books, we have all of them in our online bookstore, prophecywatchers.com. Click the online bookstore and scroll down. You'll find them right there. You'll read, I think, at a level of insight that you don't usually find. Avi is a historian. He understands global politics. He writes from the Judeo-Christian perspective. And Avi, all I can say is thanks for being here today, and may the Lord bless your travels.
And God save America, and God prosper this ministry, and all those ministries just share the truth.
I'm Gary Stearman. Hey, keep watching, everybody. We are. Thanks for joining us on Prophecy Watchers. You can find us on the web at prophecywatchers.com, where you can sign up for our free email newsletter, or follow us at facebook.com/prophecywatchers. In the meantime, keep watching, everybody, and we'll see you soon.